Deion Sanders is the king of the transfer portal, and he just landed one of the best wide receivers in all of college football.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the business. So thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let's talk all things portal. It's portal season, which means we got to dive into all the great things that Coach Prime is doing, because guess what? The Buffs are back in the portal and they're quite active. So we're going to dive into the elite wide receiver that they landed, his elite running mates. They're also got some running backs. And then we're also going to dive into their transfer portal additions on defense. And then we're going to dive into what's next for the portal, because the Buffs are hosting a handful of key visitors that could truly elevate this team to a Big 12 contender next season. So let's dive into the wide receiver, the one that I'm pumped about, Danny Scudero. He played at San Jose State, started his career at Hawaii. And you look at his measurables and you're going, okay, I guess it's kind of exciting. But if you watched any San Jose State game this year, Danny Scudero was by far the best player on the field at all times. And he played against teams like Texas and Stanford. And I'm not even exaggerating. He was constantly making plays. He was first in the country in receiving yards with 1,291. He had 10 touchdowns on the year, averaged 14.7 yards per catch, 88 catches on the season. And I mean, massive games. Central Michigan, 9 catches for 189 yards. Against Texas, at Texas on the road in Austin, 7 catches for 60 yards. Versus Idaho, which was a really good team, or a solid team, I guess you could say, 130 yards and 6 catches. Against Stanford, 11 catches for 135 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he has longs of 70, 72, 62, 56, 46. Like, he is a explosive play waiting to happen. I think he could very well be Brendan Marion's next case for Blitnikoff, right? Brendan Marion helped produce Jordan Addison during his Blitnikoff season. I think Danny Scudero could be that good. He is lightning in a bottle. He is, quite frankly, you get the ball in his hands and in open space, good luck bringing him down. He think LeJontay Wester, think Travis Hunter, but possibly even more shifty and explosive. And I know those are lofty comparisons and expectations, but that's how high I am on Danny Scudero. He is one of the better players in the transfer portal. Really, I would say he's the headliner of this class for Colorado right now. He ranked, according to 24/7 Sports, by the way, San Jose kid, so he's a Bay Area kid. He ranked as 164th player overall in the portal, 41st wide receiver, but he is far better than the rankings indicate. And Colorado also got another really talented wide receiver who will be his running mate, by the name of Cam Perry. He was an all-MAC wide receiver at Miami of Ohio. Cam Perry, they're both small. They're both 5'9", 5'10", but Cam Perry, you can move everywhere. Honestly, you can move Scudero everywhere as well. Like, these are just guys that you want to get the ball in their hands. It doesn't really matter about how tall they are. He's Cam Perry's 5'9", 170-ish, out of Atlanta. 43 catches for 976 yards last season, 6 touchdowns, and another shifty guy. I would say in the highlights that I've seen of him, he could go up. He plays well beyond his size, right? He could go up and get you a jump ball. He could go up and make a one-handed catch over 2 defenders. And I'm not just making that up, because he's done that. The video is shared on the Locked On Buffs social media, so go check it out over there. Like, he is, quite frankly, an electric wide receiver. And so Colorado goes from losing Omarion Miller to, you now have Joseph Williams, who I think slides into that Omarion Miller role where he's the big body. And then you have Danny Scudero and you have Cam Perry just sort of running around and making life hell for the defense. Like, that's where they're at. Like, Colorado's offense next year with Julian Lewis, he's going to have, it's basically just going to be like, hey, who do you want to throw it to on this play? Like, everyone's going to be open. Everyone can make big plays. Everyone's going to extend plays. And this Colorado offense is going to be one of the most high-flying electric offenses in the country, just 1 year after being somewhat of an anemic offense where it was like, oh, great, another bubble screen, another simple little out route. Like, Colorado is going to put points on the board. They're going to stretch the defense, and they're going to be really, really annoying and hard to tackle. Well, let's go to the running backs because Colorado did some work in the running back room. Their running back room for next year is a little bit uncertain, right? You lose Dallin Hayden, who I believe is going to end up at Memphis or did end up at Memphis. And Simeon Price, his status is unclear at this time. And so it's like, okay, you need some running backs. And they went out and got a couple backs that Coach Brendan Marion's familiar with. He's familiar with these two guys. He coached them at Sac State. They were both very productive. They were both really, really, I thought, impressive on film. So you start off with Damian Henderson, who was second on the team in rushing yards. He had 91 carries for 565 yards, 92 touchdowns, a long of 85, 5 touchdowns on the year. And then they went out and landed freshman running back out of Orlando, Florida, Jaquel Smith. He had 76 carries for 511 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like the running back situation at Colorado, where one, it seemed like they had no plan, no idea what they were doing. That's going to change, right? They're going to load up the ball carrier. They're going to be like, hey, you're in. Okay, you're in. Oh, you have the hot hand. You're staying in, right? So many times this past year for Colorado, it was like, okay, we want to change the pace up. And I'm not even trying to bring up the Coleman situation. That's a prime example of this, but there was so many more opportunities or chances for Colorado to just ride with Micah Welch or ride with Dallin Hayden. They're like, you know what? We really need to rotate backs right now. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to run the ball hard. This offense is looking real good. I think Colorado, even more now than when they had Shedeur and Travis, I think we're looking at matchup nightmares all over the field, right? Because Joseph Williams, he'll out jump you. He's an athletic freak. He's going to go up and bring down a one-handed catch. Like he is going to replace Omarion Miller. Like he was the Batman to his Robin. He is now going to slide into that Batman role. And then Danny Scudero and Cam Perry are just going to sort of fill in the gaps, right? Those are going to be your top 3 receivers. It's unfortunate for the younger guys, and we already saw Terrell Timmons exit stage left. Like Colorado has so many weapons available at wide receiver where this offense, if it's not a top 10 scoring offense and top 10 in total offense next year, I will be shocked. That's how much of a difference Brendan Marion will make calling plays, and that's how much of a difference Danny Scudero from San Jose State, Cam Perry from Miami of Ohio, that's how much of a difference these guys will make for the Buffs in 2026. So very high on Colorado's offensive transfer portal additions. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball because they're going defensive line. Guess what? More defensive line. And they need it all. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll dive into the defensive line additions. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. It's easy to check the weekly special tip-off or weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday evening. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs, making sure you guys know we're your first listen, or we appreciate that we're your first listen, but you guys also need to like, subscribe, and follow because we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the business. And today we're talking transfers. Colorado is already at 10 transfers, 10 and counting, that is, and they've gone very, very heavily on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm just going to run you through some of the big names that they've landed. So Dylan Manuel from App State, 6'1", 300 pounds. And he's a bit of a journeyman. He's been in multiple programs. And I think a lot of people, that kind of rubs them the wrong way. And I don't think that should be the case because sometimes guys just need an opportunity. And I think the important thing to remember with this roster is Colorado isn't just looking for starters. They're looking for depth pieces. I don't know where any of these guys rank in that hierarchy of depth chart right now because we don't know the roster right now. But that being said, Dylan Manuel, 6'1", 300 pounds out of Georgia, 37 tackles, 3 sacks, and interception, which I mean, for a big fella, not too bad, right? We like when a big fella gets an interception. He had a run defense grade of 75.8, so ability to stuff the run, which Colorado needs. He committed. I'm excited to see what he could do in the middle of that defense. Nathan Mitchell, I believe is how you say his name. Hopefully I'm not butchering that. He's coming in from New Mexico State. He's a safety. And quite frankly, Colorado needs safeties, and they need a Tafik Bayard. I don't know if this guy's Tafik Bayard. I don't know if anyone's Tafik Bayard because high standard, right? By the way, Tafik Bayard, Texas A&M. He's getting that bag. He's going to play for the Aggies. Congrats to him. He deserves it. And I don't want anyone mad at him. I think if anyone should be, if you're going to be mad at anyone, be mad at Colorado for not paying him. But we have 93 total tackles, 4 forced fumbles. This dude, think of Shiloh Sanders in a way. He reminds me of I would say a better or a more polished Shiloh Sanders, I guess you could say at times. Because Shiloh was the CEO of the Headache Gang, right? He was causing fumbles nonstop. And Nate Mitchell, 3 picks, 4 forced fumbles. He's probably going to be a starting safety for the Buffs, or at least a very key rotational piece. And then they went over to Albany. And if you guys, and I talked about this the other day, I know a lot of people are going to be school watching. They're going to be like, oh, he's from a group of 5, or oh, he's from a G5 program. And it's like, yeah, he is. But guess who else came from Albany? A lad by the name of Jared Verse, who ended up being a first-round pick and is one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. Yeah, so Colorado went and got their own pass rusher from Albany. He led the team in sacks with 6.5. His name is Balansma, I believe is how you pronounce it, Kamara. He's from Philly, started his career at Temple, and just exploded this last year. 6'3", 257. Colorado got some nice size on a few of these guys, right? I don't think there's going to be a lot of undersized complaints. I've seen a couple, but I think people need to realize that edge rushers, it's more about their bend, it's more about their quickness than it is their physical size. I do think a lot of people want them to have size, but Dylan Stewart weighs 245 pounds, right? And he's probably the best pass rusher in college football. So there's that. They also went and got Yamil Talib, which is the nephew of Aqib Talib, the NFL legend and Denver Broncos legend. He's coming over from Charlotte, 6'2", 240, out of Dallas, Texas. This is a depth get, right? I think a lot of people are going to look at the stats and be like, okay, 28 tackles, 1.5 sacks, forced fumble, interception. Like, that's not exciting, right? But it's a depth get. He's a guy that could develop into something. He's a guy that's like going to stick around, assuming things go somewhat right for him. Like, you're not getting, Colorado needs to get 50 guys in the portal. Not every player is going to be a starter. Like, that's just not how it works. Not every guy is going to come in and be like, okay, great, you're now our pass rusher who's going to get all the snaps and you're going to get this amount of plays or packages per game. Like, that's just not how it works. They also landed Lamont Lester, a freshman who started his career at Monmouth, New Jersey native, 36 total tackles, 9 sacks, 6'2", 230. This is where I talk about size. Sort of, you don't always need bigger guys. And we'll see if, I mean, they're going to get Swayzed. We all know it. He's going to get bigger in the offseason, so don't even fret. But big dude, or big player, who I think could help Colorado's pass rush improve dramatically. And Colorado also dipped into North Dakota State and landed a transfer there. I really am high on North Dakota State. Those guys are the types of players where you take a risk on them, even if, I mean, this guy's not a risk, I don't think, but you're willing to take those guys because they have a good foundational sort of understanding of like what their jobs are. They have an understanding of like what they need to do and what's asked of them, and they execute well. Sorry, nobody is getting executed. Apologies. They landed Toby Ane. He is a junior from Minnesota this past year. 7 sacks, a forced fumble. The dude is a one-man wrecking crew. And Colorado is clearly going after a lot of guys who have a lot of experience getting after the quarterback. And I'm excited for Toby here. It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, you need guys who can get to the quarterback. Brendan Sorsby's at Texas Tech. There's a lot of talented quarterbacks in the Big 12. DJ Lagway could end up at Baylor. There's just so many talented names out there. And 8 tackles for a loss this past season. And he's just a guy who he could be the starter for Colorado right away. Like I think if any of these defensive starters or any of the defensive transfers are to start right away, I'd put my money on Toby. Offensively, I think, and I should have done this when I was talking about the offense. I think a guy like Damian Henderson has a chance. Danny Scudero and Cam Perry are both going to be the starters. And now we're looking at this team in a completely different fashion, and they're far from done, right? They have 10 commits, and I would say they have 40 to go. And that's not just an exaggeration. Like Colorado's roster is that barren where it's like, hey, you need to bring in 50 guys. But I really like who they're going after right now. They're going after guys who are proven at the FCS or group of 5 level, who have sort of this ability to develop into something more, and it's just a matter of whether or not Colorado could develop them. That's my big concern, but clearly Deion Sanders and company have a plan. So I like what they're doing right now. Shout out to Coach Box, shout out to Coach Prime, shout out to Coach Marion. They're putting in work. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other transfers, who the Buffs are pursuing, need to pursue. But first, a quick break. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Game Time. For those of you that don't know, there's nothing like a college football season. There's tailgates, there's packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting the tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and the worst part, prices jumping at checkout. However, Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets, and experiences in just a few taps. I opened the Game Time app to look at upcoming college football games and was surprised to see at how fast it was to find great seats. You see college football tickets starting as low as $25, and it makes it easy to plan a game day trip. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. This has been a transfer portal chatter-packed Locked on Buffs episode, and we're going to have a lot of those this offseason, so I know you guys are excited for that. I'm going to start off with two people that the Buffs need to pursue. You have Florida State twins, Mondrell and Daryl Desir, I believe is how you say it. They're going to enter the transfer portal. Mondrell was an on-3 freshman All-American. Daryl totaled 23 total tackles and 1 sack. Sorry. I think I said 23 sacks. That'd be insane. You need them both, honestly. I don't think you could go wrong with twins. I don't think who are both productive, and they're both multiple-year players, right? Like, you're not just getting them for 1 year and turning them over and being like, okay, like, let's do it again next year. Let's see who we can replace them with. And I think you sort of look at what they bring to the table. Like Mondrell, 6.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble as a freshman. If Colorado could bring in guys 6'4", 270 almost, if Colorado could bring in guys who have this proven sort of pedigree to them, adding these extra guys' depth will only help bolster the room itself, right? Bolster the entire defense line, because that defense line last year went from 30-something sacks in 24 to 13 total in 25. That's not going to get it done. Colorado needs to be in that 30-plus range, right? Look at how Texas Tech made it to the Big 12 championship, made it to the college football playoff. There's their defensive line. Baron Morton. How do I say this nicely? Baron Morton is an average to above average college football quarterback, and there's nothing wrong with that. That being said, Texas Tech won games with their defense. Colorado needs to be able to win games with their defense because, I mean, offensively, they're going to be good, but you can't always count on your offense to score 50 points a game, right? That's sort of where the Scudero era went wrong, I guess you could say, is at times when Colorado struggled, it was because the offense wasn't able to put up enough points, right? And the defense wasn't able to contain the other opposing offense to take the pressure off Scudero and company. So it's one of those things where you bring in the Desir twins, the Desir brothers, and the offense, or the defense, looks a little different. And then Colorado is also expected to host a pair of Texas transfers this week, and I'm excited about both of them. I told you about both of them for a while now. C.J. Baxter, the running back, was on my initial list of people that Colorado should pursue. Excuse me. He's coming off an injury this year. Didn't have the best season, right? He only had 54 carries, 196 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, right? And 1 receiving touchdown. But he tore his ACL last year. He looked a step slower, but I think having some more time to heal and an opportunity to be the lead back against Big 12 competition, I think he could expose the Big 12. He, as a freshman in the Big 12, because in 2023, Texas was still in the Big 12, he had 659 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, with a long of 54. And he was an all Big 12. I think he was the all Big 12 offensive rookie of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So, or newcomer of the year, whatever they called it at the time. So he would probably be the running back 1. And then you have a Darrell Henderson, perfect running back 2. And it just would be a perfect balance, I think, in this Colorado running back room, who I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, what about Micah? Oh, what about Simeon Price? And it's like, one, you can never have too much depth, right? Colorado quickly found out at defense line, at running back last year, how only having 4 to 5 guys limits you dramatically. And then the other transfer, and this is a lot of people are in the mix for this guy, so we'll see. The one thing that Colorado can offer him is sort of a prime role. We'll see if he really feels like he fits in anymore, because obviously you have Scudero, you have Joseph Williams, you have Cam Perry. Does DeAndre Moore, who's visiting, is he still interested in Colorado, right? Last week when the portal opened, my pitch to DeAndre Moore, if you're Colorado, was like, hey, like, dude, you'd be our wide receiver 1. You would be our guy. And now I don't know if he's that guy anymore, but he'd still be the wide receiver 2, right? He had 38 catches for 532 yards, a long of 46. He's super athletic. Has been clocked at around 20 plus miles per hour. So Colorado taking big swings in the portal. I love it, because you can't just roll over and be like, oh, well, this last year sucked, so we need to settle for lesser players, right? You got to take these big swings, because the more CJ Baxters or DeAndre Moores you get, the more guys that are going to be interested and be like, oh, what's Colorado building over there? So really excited to see what the Buffs continue to do in the portal. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Make sure to run that subscriber count up for me, please, if you don't mind. We're at over 8,000. Give me 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and I'll see all of you tomorrow with more transfer portal news.